Come join us as we dive deeper behind the scenes of security and cybercrime today, interviewing top leaders from around the world and sharing true cybercrime stories to raise awareness. But first, a huge thank you to all of our executive co-producers who subscribed to our Prime membership and fueled our growth. So please help us keep this going by subscribing for free to our YouTube channel and downloading our episodes on Apple or Spotify podcasts so we can continue to bring you more of what matters. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and now the show. Welcome, everybody, to Cybercrime Junkies. Today, we're going to talk about innovative ways to build a security culture. In the studio today is Benjamin Netter, very cool dude, security expert, hacker, investor, entrepreneur. He joins us today. He's the founder of Riot at tryriot.com. There's a link in the show notes. It was founded back in 2020, and it's a next generation unique platform for building a security culture. It's really cool. We're going to hear about it today, but it has a chatbot named Albert who's really cool and keeps asking questions and providing information. It's really, really cool. So this education platform is like served by being used right now by over 100,000 users, and it's a really, really innovative way of doing it. So Ben, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey David, thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate it. So you are over in France right now?
In Paris, yeah, sunny
in
Paris.
All right. You know, the view here in the Midwest of the United States, it's like the same. Like it's pretty much the same as Paris. Like people from all over the world travel to the Central Plains, you know, where we have like tourist spots and tours and stuff. Yeah, that's very cool.
I've done my fair share of road trips in the US.
I
So
know
I
you
kind of
have.
love this part of the US.
That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your background real quick, just for the people that may not have heard of you, and hopefully they will after today. What did you like? Where'd you grow up? Just walk us through generally.
Of course, yeah, sure. I grew up in Paris, spent most of my high school years coding. So I would say I'm still a coder. I've been coding for 20 years. I don't code on a daily basis now at Riot. I do everything but coding.
Well, you're the founder.
Yeah,
you're running a company now, so it's not like you can like be cracking code and designing. Yeah.
So I can do everything.
Well, just a little. I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but what was like the first coding language you learned?
PHP.
Okay, and then what did you develop after that? What did you learn after that? Or was that your main language?
I learned JavaScript later on, and especially Node.js. So I did probably 10 years of PHP, 10 years of Node.js.
Interesting. My daughter is learning to code right now, and so she's starting with Python. So I always want to ask people like how they got started. So she loves it.
It's a good option. I think it's a good option.
Excellent.
And it's good that kids learn it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a skill many don't have. So so fast forward through your high school years, you're a coder, and you used to dabble around on some sites, right?
Yeah.
So what
my first success was in when I was 19. I created a Facebook app that 500,000 of French people used. So that's probably my first success.
So
yeah, it lasts for like 2 weeks or something like this. For 2 weeks, I had, I think, around 8 million page views on my Facebook ad. Yeah.
What was the ad about? Can I ask?
So it was answering questions on your friends, and they receive a notification saying, "Hey, David, answer a question on you," and your friends would be like, "Hi, I want to see that," and you would have to answer questions to see the replies. Exactly.
So did you? Yeah. So when you say you created it, did you create it so that it sent the notification to all of the friends that you did the poll about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was like completely viral for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, Facebook reached out and say, you're not supposed to do that. And so we're cutting you out. So it died overnight. The
Not going to
same
make
way
any.
yeah.
Not going to make any comment. Not surprised, right? Like not surprised. As opposed to saying this was really good. You drew a lot of attention to the platform. Maybe we can, congratulations. Here's $500. Here's a here's a reward. They're like, you're not supposed to do that.
No. No, you're not supposed to do that. I mean, for 2 weeks I was rich. I mean, I was making, I think, 300 euros per day or something like this out of advertising. Yeah.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
As a 19-year-old kid, it was not bad, but
no. Well, and I think you discovered the power of, tapping on the keyboard.
Coding.
Yeah, tapping on the keyboard with creativity can make people some money. So
exactly.
So, what else happened when you were a kid? And you know what I'm asking about. There was a cool. You had a, from what I understand, you had a pretty normal childhood by all regular standards, right? Like you'd play sports, you had friends, you did things, right?
Yeah. On top of coding and hacking around. So I actually started hacking. I mean, my career in hacking started when I was 12, probably. And I was so basically I was, this kid on the computer with the internet access and trying to see what I can do on other computers. And so I was playing around with Trojans at the time. It was Trojan horses, sending Trojan and horses, and then people would click and you would try to go into the computer. And that's it. I mean, I didn't do much except that. I mean, I was trying to see how things were working on the internet. And so
that's interesting.
That's probably how my career started, hacking career started.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So when you first discovered them, was it on the dark web? Did you and a couple online friends or something get on the dark web, get the malware, or was it just you happened on it some other way? I was just curious.
I mean, there was no dark web at the time, and I was spending most of my day on websites. Like one that I went on was called Cool Paradise.
Yeah, Cool Paradise.
Tutorials. Cool Paradise.
Yeah,
it's a French website where you had tutorials on how to hack people. So that's actually when I got interested into hacking.
And you were 12 years old at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't doing much. I mean, I was just trying to hack around, nothing in mind in particular.
Well, what those of us that aren't experienced hackers are always amazed is when we talk and get the opportunity to speak with people like you that are really changing the landscape. We're always amazed because you guys always downplay it. It's like, oh, we located Trojans. We were just playing with our buddies. I would just like throw out a Trojan and then control their entire computer or whatever. Like it wasn't much. It was just learning. I'm like, that's pretty powerful right there. And you were a kid. You were a kid. So it's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. So
I discovered recently that we were called script kiddies. I didn't know
script kiddies.
That's how you called it.
Yeah, that is what it was. We've got a lot of true crime stories on this podcast about it. We had like the boy, mafia boy, the boy who broke the internet, a couple other script kiddie stories, but they always go on to do some phenomenal things. So, okay, so a Trojan, for those that may not be super technical, walk us through kind of what it was. It was malicious code, right? You would send it over to another person. They would click on something, right? Or go to a site or something, and then you would be able to control their computer. Yeah. Walk us through it.
So downloading the file would open a port on your computer. And so that's how I started. So basically, you send the email, and there was no spam filtering at the time. So you send an email saying, hey, can you take a look at what's attached to this email? Person would click the file, and that's it. I mean, he didn't do much, and he would reply, yeah, something wrong. I can't open the file. And I'm like, oh, too bad. And and then you have a port that's opened on your computer. And I remember that what I found hard at the time was finding the IP address, because when you send an email, you don't get the IP address from that. So you need to find a clever way to get the other person's IP address.
And you put that in the code?
Yeah.
And you have to put that in the code, so that way when they open it up, you're opening up a port through that on that IP address?
No, so what I remember is that I was spending most of my time on MSN. I don't know. I know in the US you had different ways of communicating, but I was spending my time on MSN.
Yeah, back then. So this is like early 2000s, right? Kind of
exactly. Yeah.
issue. Yeah. So the AOL chat, MSN chat, things like that. That's how everybody communicated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when you send a file to someone on MSN Messenger, you get the connection is direct. So there you have the IP address.
Okay.
So that's how I was finding IP address. But what I discovered after is that you have tools that you can scan the entire web, and the IPs, and detect open ports. And you can just scan all IPs, find computers that you don't know about anything about, and use the port to enter into the webcam or the file system, whatever.
Yep. One of the top 10 ways why there's so many more data breaches today, right? It's so much more easier for those that want to hack, or those that want to be threat actors, like hacking for bad intent, right? Like there's so many more tools to be able to just find the open ports, find the vulnerabilities. There's so much information out there.
So you don't have to do the hard work.
Right, exactly. But back then, as a kid, you were doing the hard work, right? You had more time, exactly. Though. You had more time when you were a kid, right?
I had a lot of time. Looking back at it, I had a lot of time.
Yeah. My friends that are really, really good at golf, I always, like, the first question, I was like, what did you do when you were like 10 years old? They're like, well, I would just spend all day on the golf course. I'm like, that's why you're really good. You had like 4 open days in a row. Nobody has that right now as we get older. That's cool. So okay, so then you're on Cool Paradise. This like kind of, it was a French base, but it was like a hacker forum. It was like a interesting way to like find vulnerabilities, learn things, play around. Anything significant happen when you were through your time with Cool Paradise back then?
Yeah, so basically I was doing this using this tool to scan IP addresses and find the ports, and I was trying to get into computers and open the webcam and stuff like this. Early days of the internet. And one day I enter into a computer and I have a message that says, you got spotted, that was a honeypot. The FBI has been warned. And so that's pretty much when I stopped. I was 12 years old, imagining that the FBI would enter by the window and arrest me.
Oh yeah. What went through your mind when you first saw that? Were you were at home alone?
That's it. It's not worth it.
Right.
I thought it's over.
Yeah.
And my parents gonna know, and they're gonna take the computer.
Yeah, right. Computer. All access will be gone.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want that.
Oh, so did they ever call you? Did they ever contact you? Or what happened?
Nothing happened.
Oh, thank God.
I was just a kid in a room, so
right.
What would they do?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't doing much.
Yeah,
it stopped my career in hacking until 3 years ago. But
yeah, absolutely. So walk us through the impetus, the reason why you created Try Riot. What was the role you were working somewhere? In our prior conversations, you had explained you were working somewhere. There was some type of incident. You don't need to tell the name of the company or anything like that, but you were working somewhere. There was some incident, and you saw kind of the damage, the devastation that can happen, and that kind of inspired you. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So, I'll have to say the name of the company, but basically, Riot is my second company. I founded a first one called October that grew pretty well as well. We had 150 employees when I left for Riot. But basically, we were doing loans for small businesses across Europe, and we lent. To this date, I think we lent about $1 billion worth of loans to
And
European
this was
companies.
for, I'm sorry, was this for like small business loans? Was this for
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. The average loan was $500,000.
Okay.
And it would be for a pretty much 4 years loan with good interest rate. And we would provide fast decisioning. So basically, you would get an answer in 2 days. When you
That's
go to
really
your bank, it's usually about 3 months. So that's what we were offering at the time.
That's great.
I mean, the company still exists, but
yeah, and
I'm not there anymore.
You were one of the founders there?
I was, yeah, we were 3 founders.
Wow.
I was 24 at the time, so I met this guy who had a background in finance, who founded a company before, very successful company in finance, and he approached me saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a CTO. Is that you?" And so we chat, and I like the guy, and we decided to start. At the time, the company was called Lendix, and we changed the name along the way, but that's another story. But yeah, we started Lendix, and 6 months later, another co-founder joined. So we're now 3 co-founders.
Very cool. Very cool. So you guys were doing this throughout Europe, and it was based in Mexico, you said?
No, it was based in Paris, and we had 5 different offices in Italy, Spain, Germany, and Netherlands.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought Mexico, and that's why I was asking, because it seemed off, right? Because it seems like it
I've never been to Mexico.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. That's great. So then, okay. So you guys are daily operations are going on. You're the CTO. What happens next?
We created this platform that was handling hundreds of millions of euros worth of loans every year. And as the CTO, I was pretty sure a hacker would find a clever way to hijack the money. And I was very careful with protecting the platform. And we were spending a lot of money on bug bounties and pen testing and so on, as you would imagine. And so what happened is one day, in 2019, an employee ended up clicking the wrong email and entering its password. And so that's how I discovered the hard way that we were not investing in humans. And that's, I mean, to me, it's the biggest weaknesses today in companies, and so when this employee clicked, entered its password, I mean, the attack spread. And then, I mean, we had some issues, obviously. And from there, I looked at better ways to train my team. And the idea I had is maybe I should try being the shoes of a hacker, sending an email. And I decided to send an email to the whole team, a phishing email, and see who's clicking, entering their password on it. And the first time I did that, the CFO was the first person to click and enter its password. So that's how I decided to work on Riot. So initially it was a side project in 2019. And then when I did the first attack, 20% of the employees ended up clicking, entering their password. And I was telling the story around to my CTO friends, and they were all asking to try it. So I was like, maybe this is not a side project. Maybe this is a product, or even a company. So yeah, that's how it started.
Interesting. So you've got this finance organization. You're one of the founders. You are the CTO. You're bolstering security. You've got, firewalls in place, other detection means, I assume. And then you said you were doing pen testing, right? So you were protecting the infrastructure, right? But when the humans let people in around that infrastructure, it has the same result, doesn't it?
Exactly. And it's even easier. I mean, it's very hard to actually protect. We were 110 employees at the time. So it's very hard to protect 110 employees versus protecting a platform.
Exactly. So what was the email about, if you don't mind? Like, I mean, today they're probably even more sophisticated. I don't even think that they're that sophisticated. It's more about being persuasive, right? Identifying who the target is and crafting that message with a sense of urgency and a call to action that makes people want to act, right? They almost go into like amygdala hijack because they're emotional and then they put the information in. But was it something like germane to the business that just got them to act?
You mean the one that the first employee clicked, or the one I launched?
No. The first
Uh,
one that they clicked that caused the incident.
I remember it was an email from someone he knew with a PDF attached to it. You would open the PDF, and the PDF would say, "There's something wrong with this file. Click here," and you click, and you end up on a phishing page. So it's, I mean, it's not bad for a phishing attack. It's not bad because it comes from someone you know probably got phished as well.
Mm-hmm.
So someone, I mean, you know, the usual tip that you give on phishing email is always look at the sender. And in that
Right.
case, it wasn't true. I mean, the sender was legit. So
Right.
he opened the PDF, clicked enter its password on the phishing page, and what happened is that probably a few seconds later, an email was sent to all his contacts, spreading the attack the same way. So an email was sent exactly the same way, including a PDF.
Wow. So how did that make you feel? Like, where were you, if you don't mind me digging into this just a little for the listeners? Where were you when you found out about this?
I was at the office, and he was at the office too. So I got the email because I was part of the contact list, you know, and I got the email. I thought, okay, so Mark got hacked, and I ran to him and say, hey, what happened? I want to know. And from there, I mean, 10 minutes later, the password was changed, and we sent a message to all these contacts saying, hey, don't click the last email, and that's it. It was over at this point.
Okay, well, good. And then other things might have happened later, but that's not really germane. The point is that this really kind of made you realize the importance of protecting against social engineering.
Exactly.
Yeah. So so walk us through how you crafted and how you created Riot.
So basically, I decided to wake up. I mean, I had an inch that it would be an interesting product. And so I woke up every morning 2 hours earlier, and I worked on this before going to the office and during the weekends. And when I launched my first attack, got the CFO Act, I decided to apply to Y Combinator, the incubator in Mountain View. And I mean, you know, YC is pretty selective. You get, I think, 1% of people who apply get in. And so, you know, they were, for the first time ever, they were doing interviews in Paris. And I thought it's probably a good audience to try out my new idea on. And I was pretty sure I was never going to get in. But it was probably a good way to get feedbacks on on the product, you know.
Oh, absolutely. So you apply to the incubator over in Mountain View, California, and it's very selective. And then and they were actually doing interviews and things over in Paris. Like,
yeah, they were doing
it was fortuitous.
interviews
That's
for Europe.
fantastic.
They were doing the interviews in Paris.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And did you go to that interview?
Like 200 meters from my place. So pretty close to my place.
Wow,
Walking distance.
that's fantastic. What, it's like all the stars aligned for you there. So,
Exactly.
did you go on the interview? Did you, what happened?
I go on the interview. It's like a 10 minutes interview with three partners from YC. They ask you a bunch of questions on your product, what you're doing, what are you trying to solve, the team, basically me. And the next day they call you and they say yes or no, basically. Or they send you an email saying yes or no.
And
they said, and they called me, they said, all right, you're in. I was surprised because it was not part of the plan. I mean, I had this, I had this successful company on the side. It was not part of the plan to get into YC.
right.
But the next day I sent when I got the call, I sent a text message to my partners in my first company. We grabbed coffee. I said, yeah, YC is a childhood dream. So I'm gonna leave the company and work on Riot from now on.
Wow. That's wow, congratulations. That must have been so exciting.
It was. I mean, I worked in finance for 6 years, and it was time, I think.
Yeah. And this was 2019, 2020?
Exactly. Yeah. So I left my company on end of December 2019, started Riot in January 2020. I
And
started in San Francisco. So I was in San Francisco at the time.
Oh, you were in San Francisco. So COVID, the pandemic was prime time then, wasn't it?
Exactly. I mean, YC is 3 months long. You prepare, the whole YC batch is preparing for demo. What they call demo day is you pitch in front of 3,000 VCs basically, and you end up getting money for your company. And demo day got canceled because of COVID.
Wow.
And,
Did they do it remotely
yeah.
eventually? Like, how did they? Because you've been very successful in raising money. Your first series, the funding has been excellent. What walk us through kind of how the pandemic affect it? What happened next?
I mean, they moved Demo Day to. So initially, Demo Day is in-person event. So basically, it's in San Francisco. You have this big gathering, and probably 3 weeks before Demo Day, they sent us a message saying, "Hey, COVID seems to be how do you call it? It seems to be more impactful than we imagined. Maybe we should move to video interviews instead of in-person meeting with 3,000 people." And so
probably a prudent,
they moved
probably
it
a
to
prudent move back then.
Exactly, yeah. So they decided we would do the same, but on Zoom. And a week later, they sent Trump closed the border, saying, yeah, so this is real. And an hour later, we get a message from YC saying, hey, Europeans, you have to go home now. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in the US.
Wow.
And so I booked a plane ticket, got back home. But basically, I had, VCs reached out prior to Demo Day, and I scheduled 6 calls with VCs, and I ended up raising 2.5 million.
Wow. Fantastic. Yeah. We love it. And it's gone up from there. Like you've had great success there. Now today, Riot has a chatbot, Albert, who I've seen and it's really cool. It also works with other platforms, right? Like communication platforms like Slack, Microsoft Teams, things like that, right?
Exactly, yeah. So basically we started as this phishing simulation tool, but what we discovered is when we send an attack on a company, basically most companies, they get insane results, like 20% of their team clicking, entering their password.
Correct.
And then you have another problem. I mean, now you know that your team is not prepared for cyber attacks, and you're facing a new problem. How do I train? I don't know, if you're a 1,000 people company, it means that you have to train 200 employees for cyber attacks. And so that's when we created Albert. And so basically it's, I call it a cybersecurity companion. You plug it on Slack or Microsoft Teams, and it talks to your employees about their security. It does we created a catalog of 20 courses that covers the basics of cybersecurity.
That's great. And how does it work? Like how does, if somebody's going through their day and they're communicating on Slack or Teams, how does Albert interface with them? Like, are there scenarios, or if they, and is it targeting the main ones who click in the phishing simulation originally, or is it everybody in the organization at first?
So both. So basically, you would define a program that the whole team has to follow, and usually the program is split in 3 parts. The very important topics, probably 3 courses top. By the way, each courses is like 5 minutes long, so it's pretty easy to do the 3 courses. Usually employees, they do it on their first day. So Albert would welcome them in the company, saying, hey, David, welcome to the company. You know, cybersecurity is very important here. I'm going to tell you more about your security so that we keep the company safe.
Yeah, and Albert is like this friendly looking gray haired like grandpa figure, like pretty nice. Like the interface is really welcoming to people.
Exactly. We're trying to adapt a tone of voice that's friendly to the employees. And I mean, some employees, they don't know that Albert is a bot. Some of them think it's a real person.
Yeah.
So we've been trying very hard to imitate someone in your team. And I mean, the content of the course is also very adapted to the employee. You know, we're trying to get data on you and adapt the content, and that's what's powerful about text, is that it's very easy to manipulate, especially now that we have AI. I mean, you can manipulate the text so it can resonate to employees, and that's something that we've been working very hard compared to your typical cybersecurity awareness program, where it's very one size fits all. Video, cartoon video. Albert is adapting the content to each employee.
So if somebody is doing certain types of tasks, or they're in a certain type of department, right, it can kind of tailor the speech, the patterns, some of the things that it would train on based on that.
Mm-hmm, exactly. I mean, we go even beyond that. I mean, we go. I'm going to give you a very simple example, but on the password course, for example, we're fetching the last known password to hackers. So I would fetch your password, David. I would get it from data breaches automatically. And I would put it in front of you saying, hey, David, you remember that password that you used 10 years ago? Please stop using it because hackers have the same tools that we do, and we found it in like half a second. So it's over.
So
now.
you would be able to. So wow, that's interesting. So you're telling me, so Albert pops on your Slack channel or your Teams channel and is like, hey, David, you got this password, you know, it was password 1 from like 10 years ago. It's probably time to not make sure that you go into your MySpace account and those other accounts that you haven't looked at for a long time and change those things, because they can be manipulated and exploited. That's interesting, Ben. That's really cool.
So, I mean, David, you probably work in cybersecurity, so probably you don't have the same passwords everywhere.
No, pretty much. I have pretty decent hygiene. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. But a lot of people, but a lot of very smart people, though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, people aren't idiots for not doing this. It's just habit. It's just the world has changed in the last few years, let alone the last 10, 15 years when we created these accounts, right? And so, you know, not just the complexity, but more the routine of changing them and making them dynamic is really key. So,
and I mean, it's also very different from just showing you the data breaches you appear on. You know, I would say, hey, David, you've been in 5 different data breaches. Yep. Even if I told you your password leaked in the LinkedIn data breach, you would be like, okay. But if I put it in front of you, it's a different scenario. I mean,
well, that's what impresses me. Yeah, that's what I'm so intrigued by, because that is much more powerful. When, you know, we provide security awareness as a public service across the US, and when we're doing this, we always talk about, you know, have I been pwned? We do a live demo, put somebody's credentials in there, and then like show people, look, you've been in 3 or 4 breaches or leaks, right? And some of them are organizations or platforms they didn't even know because they were data brokers, right? So their data had been sold to somebody that was sold to somebody who got breached, right? And it's still, your credentials are still out there. This is actually in the middle of their workday, in their communications channel, going, hey, this right here was breached. So you're actually showing them in person. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. So can I ask you a little bit about AI? Because I don't know if people are aware, but kind of a big thing right now. Like it's kind of everywhere in the news. And I swear if I see one more post about like top 5 things to do with AI, I'm gonna like just delete the whole platform. Like it's so overblown. Some of it is just some of it is I don't yeah, I mean the whole responsible use of AI is really important. It's an important discussion. Also, remaining authentic despite AI, like letting AI just do your work for you. I a lot of people are starting to have issue with that, right? Because then it's all the same kind of garbage that everybody's just kind of sending prepackaged. But how are you and how is Riot? And for listeners, it's tryriot.com. We have a link in the show notes. Outstanding. We encourage everybody to check it out. How are you guys leveraging AI? Can you just kind of share some examples without giving anything proprietary away for sure?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no. I mean, we've been very early adopters of OpenAI, so the company making ChatGPT. The reason is pretty simple: is that OpenAI went through YC, and the YC community is very strong. So I've seen early demos of ChatGPT, and I was excited about what we could make with it in the context of this cybersecurity companion that we made. We've been trying to integrate AI everywhere on the platform since then. The first thing that we did is phishing simulation generated email. So basically, you can very easily type generate an email targeting David and announcing that his next payroll will be sent to a new bank account or something like this, and it would generate automatically the email. And I mean, those tools will be used by hackers too. So
Absolutely.
that's something that you have to be aware of. But I think the most advanced use case we've had with AI, we created a special course on the program where we put you in the shoes of a hacker, and you're trying to hack a fictional character that we called Linda. And so Albert would teach you techniques that hackers use to convince people to give, I don't know, a credit card number or something like that. So that's the scenario. So you're put in front of Linda, and Albert is coaching you to use those techniques to get Linda's credit card.
Oh, from the shoes, sitting in the chair of the hacker. So they kind of walk you through how they attack as well.
Really? Exactly. So you have this fictional character, and you have to you send her a message saying, "Hey, Linda, congratulations, you won a trip to the Maldives," or something like this. And I mean, it's like a role-playing game where you're the hacker now, and you have to convince this character to give you the credit card numbers. And so, I mean, something that I think AI will make a big difference is in teaching, because you can play those games where you're put in the shoes of a hacker, and it would teach you, and something that has never been done before. You would never be able to do that before, and to replicate a fake human that you can hack.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're actually leveraging it in many different ways, even in our role, where we're able to use things that can attend meetings when humans can't attend every meeting, and not only capture the meeting notes, but give some business intelligence from that meeting. Like, hey, are we aware that this group talked X% compared to this group? This group only asked questions or was only able to decipher this type of data. We really want to be able to train everybody to get all 5 things of data in our conversations and not to talk as much, ask more questions, right? And it allows you to kind of leverage and do it more massively. Really interesting.
Exactly, and at scale. So that's something that's new. I mean,
absolutely, it's brand new.
Yeah. Even
I
for
love it.
hackers, it will make a big difference. I mean, the attacks that can be created with AI, and they are years ahead of any attacks that you see today. I mean, I don't know. Have you heard this story about this mother in Arizona who got a phone call from her daughter
Yep.
who was supposedly kidnapped? You've heard this one?
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, she got this frantic phone call, and she swore that it was her daughter's voice because they had captured her daughter's voice on some TikTok or something, right? And then through AI, they replicated it, changed the words, which is pretty easy. There's a million platforms. There's several platforms out there that allow you to do that. And then played it back to the mom to get the mom to pay money for a ransom or something like that. Really
Exactly.
intense. It was all over the news. Yeah, pretty common. I mean, we've been exploring. We have an episode on deep fake, and it's when AI couples with deep fake, it's just going to get worse. The FBI here in the U.S. had an alert last summer about cautioning businesses for deep fake because so many, even though the pandemic isn't as intense or people are back out in person much more today than they were a couple of years ago. There's still quite a bit. We still all discovered the power of scale by being able to be virtual, right? Like you don't need to fly to Minnesota for a meeting. You can attend one in Minnesota in the morning, one in Kansas City in the afternoon, etc., right? Without having to go anywhere. But um, what the FBI was cautioning on is during hiring practices people were using deep fake to get jobs and they had using stolen credentials they would get hired and work remotely, and the problem was is then they didn't even have to hack the company, right? They were given the credentials to the company, and then these threat actors were able to access everything, and it was so common that the FBI actually even sent an alert about it last July.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is
And so
crazy.
you would get access to the data of the company
Yeah,
remotely, and you
because
would
they
just
hired
not work
you.
there. Just
Yeah, because they hired
yeah.
you because over a Zoom or a WebEx, they interviewed this person who wasn't really the person, right? And they showed some of the differences, and you're like, it's barely spottable. Like some of it was really good. Like some of the lip syncing was off, and we all know in
Mm.
time that'll get better, right? As the deep fake technology advances, all
Of
that'll
course,
get
yeah.
even better, right? So pretty scary stuff. It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. It's like the Wild West,
Yeah.
and we're living in the Wild West. There's new things coming from everywhere. One other thing I wanted to ask you is what are your thoughts on how AI will allow people to advance in their spear phishing? Meaning, and I think you did just touch on this, but to me, spear phishing has always been more effective than general phishing, right? You send out a blast of 20,000, some generic language. And while it's not that persuasive, you'll still get a small percentage of that 20,000. They'll still click, you'll still run the exploit. But spear phishing, much more effective, right? We're targeting one company. We have some some interesting, relevant information for that company or for that person. And it looks very real. It's much more effective. Uh, and my thought is AI will allow people to scrape that and launch those at scale. I mean, are you
Exactly.
seeing are you seeing that by some of the social engineering groups?
What It's part of the work we're doing. We're exploring ways to do it at scale internally, just for training purposes. And I agree with you. I mean, it's a point in time where you probably have a ton of data on anyone right now on the internet because of data breaches, because people have been sharing too much on social networks,
Hmm.
and you can scale the OSINT open source intelligence part, and
Hmm.
from there you can use OpenAI or any natural language models to generate attacks that are specifically targeted for this person, but at scale. I mean, for any person.
Right.
And I
So
mean, another thing that we're seeing right now is it's not going to be over. Probably the attack of the future is not going to be over email. It's probably going to be over a different format, over Slack, a WhatsApp message, a message on Facebook Messenger, or something like this. And I would imagine in the year we would see attacks where you get a WhatsApp message from your boss with a voice message from him with the same voice of your boss asking you to do something, and it's obviously not your boss. I would imagine this will become much more common in the second part of the year.
Yeah. Interesting. And that'll be something definitely to watch for. I mean, the one of the more recent Uber breaches involved like multi-factor authentication fatigue, right? Where they got the employee,
Yeah,
they bought or located stolen credentials, his password, his email, right? Tried to log in. Oh, there's multi-factor authentication. So it kept sending a notice to the employee. They just kept doing it. They hadn't set it so that after a certain number of attempts it would stop. But it just kept doing it over and over and over. And then they went to WhatsApp and said, "Hey, this is IT. We're trying to do some work. Can you please just approve that?" And
approve it.
and the employee was like, "Fine, you've been pinging me forever." Boom, right? And then they launched. And so that, I can see that going to different platforms, right? And you could pretty easily determine what platform an organization is using, right? If they're a Microsoft shop, they're using Teams, right? Whether they're using Slack could be obtained or figured out fairly easy, and then you can launch the attacks through that. So that's really interesting.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this then: how is Riot going to adapt to that? What kind of trainings are you going to do? Like, what's next? If you see this coming, I'm sure that something like that would be in the works for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we tried simulating attacks over SMS, and it's much harder than we thought because we need to get the approval of the telecom companies, and that's something that we were not able to do yet. But we've been exploring phishing attacks, over phone calls.
Yep.
And yeah, this will be. I think it's still very hard to do in real time, so a bit hard. But I think we'll be able to do it by the end of the year, and we'll be able to simulate a scenario over a phone call, and that's something I'm very interested about because I really think. I mean, emails will still be big, but the format is gonna change. So
yeah. Okay. So, that's so interesting. And let me ask you this: so the smishing, the actual reaching out by text, that can be more of a challenge because there's like the Anti-Can Spam Act, and like in the U.S., there's rules about you're not allowed to text people without their permission. People do it all the time. We get rogue texts all the time, robocalls, all that stuff anyway. But the point is, it is illegal, so that can be kind of blocked. So you would just need consent first, which kind of gets in the way of just like, well, we're trying to train these people. Can you just uniformly give us consent, like as their employer or something? But so the phishing sounds really good. I mean, that if you were able to develop something like that, that's really critical. What about and maybe they're a little bit less common, but like USB drops, things like that. Those were so common back in the day, where you would put a script that would just be an alert on the USB, let employers drop them in common areas with some label on them that's appealing, that make people want to do it. They would go plug it into their PC, and then all of a sudden it's like, you shouldn't have done that. We have a policy against this, right? This could have been a remote access Trojan, malware, ransomware, whatever. Any thought to that, or is that tactic less common today?
I think it's to me it's an attack of the past. I don't see that growing. I mean, most computers, they don't even have a USB port anymore.
Well,
so,
and it's
I mean, my
people
laptop
aren't
doesn't
all
have one.
Yeah, and people aren't really in the office all together at the same time, right? So yeah, okay. I was just curious. Thanks for that.
No, but that's true. It's a good question because our competitors, they do it. So we've been challenging the idea for the past few years, but I've been avoiding that. I think I think hackers, they prefer to attack companies that are far away from their home. So I don't see them going to a parking, dropping USB keys.
Right, exactly. It's more,
Yeah, and it's not something that's we've been at the beginning of Riot. We were focusing on small and medium-sized businesses. I think this might be an attack targeting enterprise companies, but I don't see that happening to smaller companies.
Absolutely. So just before we wrap up, and Ben, I hope this is not the last time we talk, because you and Riot are really at the cutting edge of this, and so we're excited to watch your progression and your meteoric rise. So we hope that we get to follow your arc and touch base maybe later on this year and see how things have even advanced further. What so what is next for Riot? I mean, what are some of your kind of mission critical priorities?
I think Albert is going to be a bigger part of the company now. I want Albert to be able to answer questions for that the employees might have. Questions like, I found a USB key, what should I do? Some more, today it's mostly Albert talking to the employee. I want the employee to be able to ask questions when something happens in their life, so the USB key is a good option. I got this USB key, what should I do? Can I plug it into my computer? And I want those answers to be contextualized for the company. So based on the rules that the security team decided. So that's something that will be, 80% of our work right now is using AI. Most of the features we're working on right now involve at some point AI. It will be, to us, it will be a big game. It's a game changer for the whole industry.
Sure. Yeah. And it allows you to customize things at scale, right? Like you're able to make it real suitable for an organization. And then you can scale that across many organizations. That's phenomenal.
And there's a shortage of talents in cybersecurity.
Yes, we are quite aware of that, right? And so this allows
the next hire may be a virtual assistant or a virtual agent helping you.
Yeah. On the next episode of this show, we'll have an avatar here. It'll be Albert. He'll just be here asking questions.
No, you'll still be here in 30 years, David. No, you're not going to be replaced. Albert is not going to replace you. David. I know. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're irreplaceable.
That's awesome. Hey, Benjamin Netter, tryriot.com. Please check it out. Thank you so much for taking time with us today. We encourage everybody to check it out. It's really, really cool. Yeah. We will talk again soon, my friend. Thank you so much.
Great to see you, David.
Great to see you. Enjoy Paris.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, my friend. See you. Bye. Well, that wraps this up. Thanks for joining, everybody. Hope you got value out of digging deeper behind the scenes of security and cybercrime today. Please don't forget to help keep this going by subscribing free to our YouTube channel at Cybercrime Junkies Podcast, and download and enjoy all of our past episodes on Apple and Spotify podcasts so we can continue to bring you more of what matters. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and we thank you for joining us.